What's up, YouTube and Gen X? I have grown up and came across both black men and women that literally, for their whole lives, were exposed to um, nothing more than non-black people. Um, and because of that, they have limited experience with black people. Okay? And unfortunately, you know how it is with the way black culture is now. Um, if you were in a world where you were not around black people, only to later on be around more black people, I guess maybe in college or when you graduate, it's not easy. Like you look at what's going on now, and I feel like saying fuck you to the black community at least once a week. But knowing how I grew up and knowing my background, it's hard to. But if I was somebody who had limited exposure to the black community, based off of how I grew up, I'm bouncing, and I really can't fault people for that because we have a lot of shit going on right now. Like I said, I care because I caught the tail end where I think things were okay. I caught that tail end where I got to see that Malcolm X pro-black sort of black state of mind before NWA and the major music labels came through and took black culture and just destroyed it, right? So I was there when it was cool to walk around in a hoodie that had like Howard on it or some sort of HBCU, and people had the Malcolm X hat and the Malcolm X little medallion, little chain. So I caught the tail end of that. So I have good experiences, so it's hard for me to just leave. But for other people who didn't have all that, I can't really blame you because it's not ideal. It's like, come live in my house, but you're coming through and it's like, yo, this house is in shambles. I don't want to live here, right? But for me, it's like, yo, I remember when things were okay. So I have that hope that I'm going off of, whereas other black people don't. So I can't fault you. Do what you have to do. In regards to the article, 8 Reasons to Date a White Man or whatnot, if you don't prefer black men, you don't prefer black men. Okay, it is what it is. Everybody's been exposed to a whole lot more. People talk about, the color line is being erased and different cultures are coming into contact with each other and exchanging ideas. And for me personally, I think, if anything, it's more appropriate to date according to your socioeconomic status more than race. That's me, right? So you have people who have that belief, forget what culture they're from. Do you have a degree, or, do you put yourself in this category? I'm a firm believer that, you date according to class. So for me, it's like, yo, I'm definitely trying to be in that middle class sort of world. So if you can fit into that world, I'm checking for you. I don't really care about your race so much. Obviously, I would love for you to be black, but, I'm not going to take a black chick who has the hood mentality just because she's black. So you have that going on where people are like, I'm not going off of race and culture so much anymore. So it's okay to be a black woman and say, hey, I think I have a preference for non-black men. It's okay. Just like it's okay for black men to do the same. Everybody has different experiences, and I hate the fact that in the black community, we want to have this one monolithic sort of viewpoint. And anybody who falls outside of that is somehow selling out or there's some sort of traitor. No. Live your life, right? I'd rather see more happy people than unhappy people, black people, simply because they were trying to keep it so black. I like to see black people who are happy. Real talk, I do. Right? Obviously, the best thing is to see two black people making each other happy, but, life is life. I've already talked about how we don't have large numbers, so by default, we're screwed over, right? I've talked about a lot of reasons to why, as a black person, you have to be able to roll with the punches because you never know what's going to happen. Yeah, you may be living in an area that's, predominantly black, but what happens if you get some sort of job offer or some sort of opportunity where you have to leave and move, right? Am I going to tell you not to take it because you have to keep it black? No. I would say, hey, just learn how to adapt. So with that being said, let me get into what I have to say. You know, I did read the article a couple of days ago, and it's nothing really new. Just the latest installment of bullshit. And for me, it's like you're looking at black women, the ones who at least co-sign with that sort of message. You're looking at black women who, quite frankly, don't prefer black men. It doesn't matter what he has going on. For whatever reason, good or bad, legit or, not legit, you just don't prefer black men. We're not going to get into why you don't prefer. You just don't, right? And it's okay. It is okay. But here's my problem. Okay, here's my problem. Overall, black women across the board, and yeah, this is a sweeping generalization for those who, are listening. This is definitely about to be a sweeping generalization that I think is accurate. I would say most black women have no problem in taking credit for that sort of strong black queen of the earth, we carried black men through slavery sort of credit. Okay, most black women want that pro-black sort of identifier, right? Black queen, black goddess. Most of y'all like that, stereotype. You like that label. Go ahead and call a black woman, hey, you're a strong black queen. Are they going to slap you and stop you and say, no, I'm not? They're going to say, thank you, right? So most of y'all will take credit for it. Now, the problem with taking that label is you're saying that I'm pro-black, okay? You're saying I'm pro-black, and this is why a lot of you guys get attacked for the weaves, the nose jobs, and all these other things, because it doesn't fit with being pro-black, but you want credit for being pro-black, right? If you're a black woman and you're not claiming to be pro-black, or, you're not on that whole I'm a strong black queen, I don't care what you do. So yeah, you can be weaved up, you can get a nose job, you can do whatever you want to do, right? But the second you come through and want to take credit for being, Miss Black Queen or Miss Afrocentric, well, what's going to happen? Well, why do you have a weave? Or why do you, act a certain way, right? Or, why are you saying you're going to go off and get a white man if you're so Afrocentric, if you're so black, if you're this black queen, right? This is where that stereotype that you guys hold on to bites you in the ass, because it doesn't give you the flexibility that a lot of you guys want. Now, if you're okay with that label and you do consider yourself to be Afrocentric and whatnot, then you're fine. But for a lot of black women who are not, and who want to be, I guess, more modern and more, hey, I'm not trying to be held down to any sort of racial stereotype, that's cool. You just have to give up that stereotype. You can't take credit for it. Because there's certain shit you can't do. You can't walk around, taking credit for, being in this lineage of strong black women going back from slavery and whatnot, and sit up here and say, well, we feel like white men are better options. You just can't, right? Because it doesn't fit. And this is the problem. This is where you get articles like the one that we just read. Here are women who are confused, or they're afraid of letting go of that black queen stereotype, right? But at the same time, they have a preference for non-black men, which is okay. They just have that fear of letting go of the strong black queen. So what do? They have to create this idea that black men are number one, but because black men aren't cutting it, they have no choice but to go off and get white men, right? So they'll say, oh, black men are failing across the board. Even if black men are on point, they're gay, they're conditioned, or, they just can't compete. So you get these sort of opinions that kind of let you know that there's really nothing black men can do. There's really nothing you can do Doesn't matter how on point you are, what you have going on, you get that sense of, yo, I'm kind of fucked from the word go here. And that's what these articles do, because there's no wiggle room. It's so definitive. Black men are failing in a definitive sort of tone, right? But we still want black men. But what's a strong black queen supposed to do? What am I supposed to do, right? So by default, unfortunately, my plan B is to get a white man. And this is why you see these articles. These are women who are afraid to say how they feel. These are women who are afraid to state their preference and leave this whole strong black queen sort of stereotype. That's all it is. Because without that, you can't justify the attitude. There's a lot of shit that you can't justify if you don't have that strong black queen sort of identifier, right? And that's my issue. Just let go of that stereotype. I don't do it anymore. I don't do this whole my black queen, my black Mother Earth, you are the rock, you are the foundation. I don't, because most black women don't want to be held to that sort of standard in terms of, hey, if you're so Afrocentric, why the weave? Why the concern with what's going on in Hollywood? Why are you into certain shit that's not what we were doing back in Africa? So that's why I don't do it, because most black women don't want to be held to that standard, right? I'm sorry, y'all don't, right? I hate to say it, but just in terms of like people I know personally, I only know maybe a handful of black women that are actually truly Afrocentric. It's really not about the dreadlocks and whatnot, but in terms of how they think in their mentality, I only know a small few. So for me, I'm not doing that whole my black queen, my black goddess. I'm not. Right? I'm not going to put you in that box where you have to follow suit, because a lot of y'all don't want it. So if you let that go, you're good. You can prefer any man that you want, right? Because no one can hold you to a certain standard. But you're going to get attacked, and you're going to be made to feel a certain way if you continue to go out and promote this whole idea that you are still the strong black queen, right? At the end of the day, and I made this point before, you can't choose a non-black partner and still say this is black love. You may have love, but it's not black love. I can't sit here and take a picture in, my Nigerian clothing, and put a white woman, in some Nigerian clothing, give her the head tie, the gele and whatnot, and have a picture and a caption that says, this is black love. This is African love. No. We may have love, but it's not that black African love. I can't take a non-black woman and replace the black woman. I can't. So I'm creating something new. Right? It's something brand new. And as a black man, I have to be aware of that. So if I'm not ready to leave this whole idea of black love in the black family, I better figure it out, because I can't replace the black woman. But what you guys are trying to do, going back to this whole idea of not trying to give up that little stereotype identifier, is you're trying to take white men but still say this is black love. And I think this is where even certain black men get upset and not even know it. See, we get kicked out. As a black man, you're going to get kicked out. If you're dating interracially, you're going to get kicked out. But you have black women who don't want to be kicked out because they want that umbrella protection, right, of the strong black woman. So they're saying, let's create this new identity that you can, or this new sort of belief that you can have as a black woman, the strong black family, but you don't need a black man to be there. I'm so black that it doesn't matter who I'm with. And that's complete bullshit. And that's all. Right? Black men know that they're leaving, but black women want to somehow act as if they can import white men and still have this whole idea of black love and the black family, and this is a black issue. No, you're leaving. You're doing something new. And I made this point before. You are leaving when you choose to date interracially. You are opting out, which is okay, but no, you're opting out. Right? It's like LeBron James still trying to walk around with the Cavalier jersey on. No, you opted out, player. You went to the Miami Heat. right? It is what it is. So that's my vid. I want to put this on YouTube and Gen X. So I'm going to leave it here. Y'all take it easy. God bless.